Here's the immune system, part 2. Alright, so this is where we left off. How do T cells know cells infected? Well, normally it gives off its normal, hey, I'm a totally normal thing signals. But here you can see these foreign antigens saying foreign, 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 it's been infected. So it kind of sends off this wanted signal. And so the T cells will come in with their antigen receptors to check on this cell. Alright, so what if the attacker gets past the B cells in the blood and actually infects some of your cells? Well, you need trained assassins to kill off those cells. In comes the attack of the killer T cells. That's literally what they're called. Alright, so they destroy infected body cells. They bind to that cell, secrete the perforin protein, and puncture the cell membrane of the infected cell. So here you can see it binds, punctures, destroys the infected cell, and then here again binds, perforin is secreted into the cell membrane, and it destroys this cell. So this is the killer T cell, this is the target cell. Perforin comes in, and right there you can see it breaking the cell membrane, so it's going to explode it. Alright, so our immune response. Here's your skin, non-specific. Pathogen invasion somehow gets past the skin. There's antigen exposure to those foreign molecules. There are either free antigens in the blood or antigens on infected cells. If they're in the blood, that triggers a humoral response because it's in the fluid, which triggers the B cells. And if it's on infected cells, it triggers a cellular response, which triggers the T cells. And then these macrophages will either eat the antigens here, non-specific, or the helper T cells will trigger the macrophages to come eat to phagocytic, eat the antigens, or the helper T cells will help out the B cells or T cells. The B cells will replicate themselves into either plasma or memory cells, and then they have all these antibodies, and T cells have memory cells and cytotoxic T cells. These are the ones that attack. Alright, so when a local response is not enough, then that's when a fever will kick in. So that's why you often get a fever when you're sick. It's a systemic response to infection. What happens is those activated macrophages, the ones that have received the signal there's something out there to be eaten, they release interleukin-1. And that triggers the hypothalamus, part of your brain, to readjust your body temperature to raise it. So that causes your fever. And that higher temperature helps out the defense in many ways. One, it inhibits bacterial growth, right? So like when you cook your food, it kills bacteria. Same way in your body. You heat up, it kills bacteria. It also stimulates phagocytosis, so it encourages them to eat and to eat the antigens. It also speeds up the repair of tissues, and it causes the liver and the spleen to store iron, which reduces your blood iron levels, and that helps because bacteria need large amounts of iron in order to grow. So it triggers all these things, which is why you'll very often end up with a fever when you're sick. Okay, so vaccinations, we all get vaccinations to help us keep from getting sick, and it's when your immune system is exposed to a harmless version of the pathogen, and it triggers that specific response. So it stimulates the immune system to produce antibodies, and that means you get that second response later on, which is a faster response to the pathogen. So you'll get a rapid response in future exposure. And it's most successful against viral diseases, not so much bacterial. Jonas Salk developed the first vaccine. It was against polio, and it attacked motor neurons. So he understood the science kind of behind it, and in 1955 developed the polio vaccine, which saved many, many lives. Right, so there is active immunity, the whole system we just talked about, but there's also passive immunity, which are things like memory cells or getting antibodies from another individual. So that is maternal immunity. You get antibodies passed from mother to baby through mother to milk. and also through injection. If you get an injection of antibodies, that gives you a short-term immunity. All right, finally we're going to talk about HIV and AIDS. HIV is the human immunodeficiency virus. So break that down. Immunodeficiency means there is a deficiency in your immune system. It's not working like it should. So there's a virus that infects the helper T cells, and so the helper T cells don't activate the rest of the immune system, the T cells and B cells. So the helper T cells get infected, and then they just sit around. They don't go alert anyone and say, hey, hey, come over here. It also destroys the T cells. Then you end up with this acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, which is when you end up with many infections by opportunistic diseases because the helper T cells aren't signaling things to come kill them. And so death usually occurs from other infections, not from the fact that the person has HIV, but that they gain other infections and are unable to fight them off, such as pneumonia or cancer. Some other immune system malfunctions are things like autoimmune diseases, where the immune system attacks its own molecules and cells, like lupus. The antibodies against many molecules are released by the normal breakdown of cells. Or rheumatoid arthritis. The antibodies cause damage to our cartilage or bone, or diabetes, or even multiple sclerosis. Finally, other immune system malfunctions are allergies. It's an overreaction to environmental antigens. So your immune system gets a little overreactive. And so there's things like allergens, like pollen, dust mites, all of those things stimulates the release of histamine, which then in turn causes that immune system reaction to those things. And then your body recognizes that as a foreign thing and later on remembers, oh, this is a foreign thing, we must attack it. Finally, what are key attributes of the immune system? The 4 attributes that characterize the immune system as a whole are specificity, so we have non-specific and specific, and diversity, that we're able to react to millions of antigens, and memory, that's that rapid 2-degree response. So the secondary system response, once we remember, it's a significantly faster response. And finally, the ability to distinguish self from non-self. So that's a training process that reduces autoimmune disease. That is the immune system.